It's no secret that Helldivers 2, much to the begrudging guile of the AAA industry, has been a resounding success, becoming one of the internet's, well, current hits of the month, at least until the next 4-player co-op game comes out and knocks it off its stand. But why is it so popular? I mean, if you would have watched my Helldivers 2 video that I spent 50 hours of editing, you might have already known this. Not that anybody watches anything I'd make other than my bloody React Annie content. 50 hours of editing? Oh no, nothing. But friggin' 30 minutes of reacting to some absolute slop by Russian Badger. Oh, that's got 50,000 fucking views. Anyway, so what we're here to do today is to really look into why Helldivers 2 has become so well appreciated by the gaming community as a whole. And of course, when anything becomes popular on the internet, the content creators will swarm to it like flies around a giant pile of VTuber poop. So, here we are to discuss the intricacies of why Helldivers 2 has become so popular. In my mind, and if you watched my original video, it comes down to a couple of key points. One, it's not burdened by the unnecessary tripe of AAA industry of microtransactions and bollocks of that nature. It fundamentally comes down to its bare bones mechanics and actually has developers that give a shit about their community and have jovial fun with it. And there's one thing that's really worth mentioning that I want to talk about before we get into this. AAA developers are too much of a pussy to attempt to do anything with satire. They would not go near the Starship Troopers mantra of that satirical element for risk of being seen as controversial. That's the word I'm looking for. For the AAA industry, they tend to focus on being safe. And let's face it, Starship Troopers and ergo Helldivers by proxy, it is a problem and a problematic theming of trying to make something political that sends a message. Even if it is satire, they're afraid that the people who don't understand that satire would end up becoming problematic for their brand. So rather than taking a risk on something that could be seen as fun, they just don't bother. But when you get companies like Arrowhead who are willing to take that risk, if they make it work, oh boy, it works. Most notably shown by how Helldivers is now one of the most popular games in existence, and the AAA industry, for the most part, has remained entirely silent, unlike they are when any other game becomes popular. I wonder how long that will last. So I could probably sit here for the next, 30 minutes and try and articulate myself why Helldivers is so popular, but I don't have a script. I'm very tired, so my ability of being improvisation, yes. My improvisation skills are not at peak, so let's use the Act Man to articulate things, because I'm pretty sure I know exactly what he's gonna say.
Jonathan Helldiver here, and
did you steal my joke? You stole my joke, you piece of... Does the Act Man follow me? That was my joke! That was my joke! No, I'm not even joking! That is my joke! I made that! Ugh.
Wings of Democracy. Helldivers 2 is the most addicted I've been to a video
Not
game
a hard joke to make. Yeah, well, neither's your sex life.
Idea of how good it is. Trust me when I say that the hype for Helldivers 2 you're seeing online is not overrated or exaggerated. This game might even be a masterpiece in my book. We'll see.
And to be fair, something that I think it has hit people really hard that hasn't been pointed out too much is that people are shocked of the hype because nobody heard of this game before it dropped. And when it dropped and suddenly everyone was like, hey, wait a minute, this game exists. Just the sudden meteoric rise is what's taken people by storm. And the fact that the AAA industry aren't willing to talk about it means they don't understand why it's popular. They haven't found something to sit there and go, well, they clearly aren't worthy of your attention. You remember when Elden Ring came out and the people who made Horizon Zero Dawn, sorry. You remember the people who made Horizon Zero Dawn? They complained that Elden Ring shouldn't be more popular because it's too hard, or whatever. Every time a game comes out, it turns into a pissing match of other developers shitting on the next popular game because it's not as good as theirs. But nobody, the AAA industry don't understand or know how to deal with Helldivers. But I guarantee you, we are going to start seeing a resurgence of team-based, satirical milsim games. I guarantee it.
Although it's actually somewhat unhealthy for me to be playing it as much as I have been because it's getting in the way of my...
Wait, I'm sorry, you think that's unhealthy? You think Act Man? I've been streaming 9 hours a day, and I'm sorry to say, my dude, but those are pussy numbers. Those are rookie numbers.
Work ethic, just like Elden Ring did. If you don't know or haven't played it for some reason,
I only wonder how much time I would have had if I hadn't have been spending all my time streaming.
Armies of robots and swarms of bugs. Very simple premise, kind of based on Starship Troopers, which is one of my favorite.
He's literally copying my format. All right, Actman, I'm making a twit longer. You literally stole my format, but you've put half as much editing in. How dare you? If you are going to take my entire format, from the video that I made, only not put in half as much editing, you could have at least given me a shout out, dude. Come on.
Always seem to gravitate towards these 4-player co-op games. Left 4 Dead, Deep Rock Galactic, Vermintide,
well,
Darktide.
Why do you think these games are popular? The corest reason that all of these games pertain to is twofold. One, playing with your friends is the biggest reason people will play these games, and it's the reason they become popular. The reason these are also so profitable is because when one person plays these games, they'll be like, well, shit, I don't want to be Billy No Mates. So they'll tell their friends, hey, I don't care that you're struggling to pay rent this month. Go and buy Helldivers 2. So when one person buys this, there's a very high likelihood that their friends will then buy it as well. It's what may... And that in of itself is the chemistry that makes... most of these kind of like 4-player games or team-based games become popular because it creates its own self-fulfilling prophecy of advertisement. It's a marketing ploy that if you are making a game that might be a little bit more outlandish, making it a co-op game with multiplayer and making it very lighthearted means that, and if you put memes, people fucking love memes. You put that kind of thing in any game and you're guaranteed to aspire to at least a certain audience and get some level of generic success.
So this is right up my alley, and if you enjoy those,
at least for a short time, anyway. I mean, Back 4 Blood was kind of a good example. Back 4 Blood had initial good success because it didn't have any good.
You can get into quite a few shenanigans
because it didn't have a good road. Yes, I know that feel. But because it didn't have a good roadmap and any good progress after its initial launch, it kind of just fell off, really. Darktide to a similar kind of extent, but Darktide's not dead. Darktide's actually still pretty goddamn popular, which is nice because I fucking love Darktide. Also, I appreciate the fact that he's using this rifle. That gun, in my eyes, is only good against the automatons. Like, I used this against the Terminids the other day, and it sucked. Like, absolute blue chunks. It takes like 3 shots to even kill a small enemy with this thing against the Terminids. I'm assuming that's just because it's specifically designed for armored, but nah. I thought this was really cool because it sounds cool, but it doesn't do much damage at all. It stuns and it's good for crowd control, but
Helldivers 2 yet. Maybe after this video,
if they're dead, they don't need crowd controlling.
I plan on doing a full review video very soon. Stay tuned for that. But for now, let's just sit back and enjoy this gem of a game.
Also, complete side tangent. He's lost weight. I want to say he looks really healthy. Also, what a freeze frame. Also, shameless plug, and I realize I need to, I realize I shouldn't be pause champing as much, but I need you guys to understand how much editing I put into my Helldivers video. So please go and watch my Helldivers video. There'll be a link in my description when this goes up on my YouTube channel. And if you're in my Twitch chat right now, stop watching my Twitch stream, go watch this video. I put 50+ hours of editing into it, and I want you to like it. I want you to enjoy it. Of the futuristic dystopian version of the human race, born to make listen. We get back to our main protagonist, John or John at Helldiver. See? I made the joke first! God damn you, act man. Hi, Nagi. Our face. Anyway, go watch that video. So seeing as good old Actman debated us with what I thought was going to be an insightful video as to why Helldivers 2 has become so popular, was in fact just a self-gratifying ego trip of his own escapades, which is fine, but that's not what we're here for. So here we have a video from Legendary Drops, which I know talks about the exact subject. It's just a bit drier and kind of makes him look like he's about ready to murder me. But anyway, let's actually watch the kind of video I wanted to watch. I might have to edit down the Actman section, but still. Actman, I love you. But maybe, you know, just talk about the game rather than gratifying why you need mid-rolls.
Simple. It's a game
and
that's
stealing
come
my
out to
content.
Incredibly high praise from the people that have been playing it. It only cost $40.
We might skip through the beginning of this because I feel like he's going to talk about what we talked about already.
Within the console war, and for the most part, developers
Also, this is really a good way for me to have 2 tags in the stream.
and critics that would normally
now I can make this my own pipeline video.
Have stayed silent for now. Today we're talking about everything Helldivers 2, from its reception
the AAA
online
industry don't give a shit.
The
AAA industry like what?
On the internet, and also how
this is what we talking about at the
contrasts with many of the games that the AAA industry has been trying to shovel down our throats for.
So this is what I was talking about at the beginning, Ryan. It's worth expanding on a bit. This game is not just a good point and example of good game design. This is the case in point of what needs to change. This is another example, along with Baldur's Gate and all those other games I mentioned in my video, that are proving to the AAA industry that what they're doing is wrong. The only thing that ever causes change is when there's something that is contentious and causes the potential for someone not to earn money. The only thing that ever derives change in a AAA industry is money. And with Helldivers, Baldur's Gate, all proving that you can make money without turning the game into a microtransaction hell or being completely ignorant of your community. This kind of game proves to the AAA industry that what they're doing is wrong and might instigate change because they know that what they're doing isn't going to make as much money as these games that are actually paying attention. So it'd be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what the AAA industry does now.
Too long. So, let's drop in.
Let's do it! But does this video have a Doom OST going to it? If it doesn't, it's not as good as my video that I made. I'm just saying. Yes, I am using other people's videos to shamelessly plug mine. Leave me alone.
Helldivers 2
also,
exploded
killer
onto
OST.
the gaming scene with an explosive launch that captivated both critics and players alike. Developed by Arrowhead Game Studios, the sequel to a twin-stick co-op shooter.
Just gonna point it out there. This is what I meant by content creators jumping on a hype train or something that's become big. The trouble is when they do that, they all do the same fucking thing, which is why I tried making my video a little bit different. Every time something becomes big, it's like everybody releases the same video. They're like, this is the game. It's made by this studio. Blah, blah, blah. Mouthpiece, 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 mouthpiece. Try and put some personality behind it. I only came to this one because I've heard from friends that this is apparently a lot more insightful.
Built upon the foundations of its predecessor, delivering intense cooperative gameplay set in a dystopian future where we are fighting against alien
don't you mean
forces
just the USA?
to defend managed
This
democracy.
is modern USA. What do you mean?
With refined mechanics, enhanced visuals, and expanded content, Helldivers 2...
Also, something that I really wish I put in my video, this is made on a 12-year-old engine that isn't even supported by the original developers anymore. This is made on the Sentinel 2 engine, which is 12 years old. It's the same engine that was made for Darktide and Vermintide. It isn't supported by the original developers, and yet somehow they made this 12-year-old engine make something that is infinitely better than anything EA or Ubisoft or insert AAA developer here.
Offers a thrilling experience for both veterans of the series and newcomers alike. As of recording
Veterans
this video,
of the series? You mean all 2 of the people that played original Helldivers? Sure. That's actually kind of a funny thing. I want to see something. Helldivers 1 Steam charts. I am going to be very interested to see how much Helldivers 2 has grown because of this. Not at all. I mean, okay, to be fair. Yeah. No. Wait, no. Oh, that's the beginning. Hold up. Yeah, here we go. So, wait, what? So, I suppose this was when they announced Helldivers 2, right? But I guess everyone's just playing Helldivers 2, so they're not playing 1, I guess? So everyone jumped back on for January when it dropped, and then they were like, nah, this ain't as good as Helldivers 2. That's actually a really interesting thing to look at. I want to see... Okay, there you go. No. Wait, no, 3 months? Oh, no, that's January. There, yeah. So no, that makes sense, because that's when Helldivers 2 launched. You know, this was around when Helldivers 2 launched. People went back to play it, and then they were like, nah, it's fine. We'll stick with the first-person shooter.
100,000 players on Steam, with an incredibly consistent climb.
Well, it's not been out for 3 months, but it's had its build up for the last 3 months.
On February 18th, the CEO of Arrowhead Studios,
I believe it was January when they did the early access
saying
protocol.
That the game had over 500,000 concurrent players between PlayStation 5 and Steam, back when the concurrent player count on Steam was just north of 300,000 players. Later clarifying that the servers are capped at 450 until they can fix stability on their back end, as the CEO has clarified multiple times, saying that this is not a resource issue with their servers, it's a code issue. The game wasn't built to have this many concurrent players. The official Helldivers
I kind of find that's actually like kind of really wholesome. The fact they
saying, despite our best efforts to increase server capacity to accommodate all of you,
it's actually kind of wholesome that they have this level of popularity.
We are experiencing capacity issues. We are once more
another reason why I think they're so good is because they're very communicative.
And hope.
Again, something else other AAA developers could learn from. If you're communicating with your audience and you're being like honest, people have much more of a respect and a feeling of connection with the developers. So if you build up trust, if you're being honest, if you're giving your audience like constant updates, if you're being kind of funny, if you're being like, if you aren't like business speak, if you want nothing but business speak, if you a good brand Twitter will be one who can mix in some jovialness whilst also being quite lighthearted, but serious enough when it needs to be. Because if you create that connection and that trust with your audience, if something happens, like the servers are a bit shit, they're much more likely to give you the time to fix it, rather than, I don't know, EA that sit there doing nothing but mouthpiece videos and never take responsibility for anything. Like, oh, our servers are down? Well, you guys must get better computers then. Smiley face.
To have a fix in place as soon as possible.
If you don't build trust with your audience,
now, I can't help but
people aren't going to be as willing
some
to
of the
be
CEO's
patient.
Responses on Twitter to people constantly bombarding him and hounding him about more servers. My favorite being, the wait screen, mate. Stop tweeting and fix this. Yes, good idea. I will sit behind the engineers.
Just to point out, there's only the studio. Arrowhead is a very small studio.
Engineers work independently towards
like
a common
100
goal
people at
without
most.
me as the CEO.
There's like one person on QA and one person who's in charge of as being GM of the game.
Aside, the
there's literally a dungeon master
with the
running everything. It's hysterical.
Widespread acclaim for the game's challenging gameplay, strategic depth, and online multiplayer.
Challenging gameplay is one thing, but let's talk about the ease of access. Yes, the end spectrum of difficulty is super challenging, really fucking fun. But a lot of people just want to get in and kill bugs. Like, you can do the level 1, 2, 3, 4 missions that are like very novice level, but there's still enough bugs and challenge to make it feel like you can have your immersive Starship Troopers experience. There's nothing that, like, I said this in the video that I made, dropping a nuke on 1,000 bugs never gets old regardless of level. And the thing is, even when you're doing those low-level missions, you're still earning the bonus resources, so you're never not incentivized to do any level of content because you're still earning what you need, and that cathartic experience of killing bugs and robots is the same at every level. In fact, I think, personally, the lower levels are more fun because you're not feeling like you have to use the best weapons. Like, at the lower levels, you can dick around with weapons that are not quote-unquote optimal. So you're still earning, you're still gaining XP, but you're doing it in a much more freeform fashion. I think that's something that needs to be mentioned.
Have been praising the dynamic mission system, which has kept every single playthrough feeling fresh and unpredictable.
That's what I meant.
As well as its robust customization options that allow players to tailor their loadouts to suit their preferred
I'm just really good with this kind of
to be able to
information.
collaborate with the people.
This is the kind of stuff I would want to talk about.
Additionally, the game's emphasis on teamwork and coordination has fostered an incredibly vibrant online community further enhancing its
True,
longevity and replay
but it doesn't
value
stop
and
you
also
playing
leading
solo.
to
I'm
higher
doing
sales.
I'm personally
With
doing a
its
solo hardcore run
adrenaline-pumping
where I
action
play through the
and
entire
addictive
game with
cooperative
zero
gameplay,
UI on my
Helldivers
own
2 has
to get
already
into the hardest difficulty
cemented
possible, and
itself
it's
as a
doable,
standout title
100%
in
doable.
2024,
Is it fun?
leaving players
No.
like myself anticipating what the future holds for this franchise.
But it's a challenge, and I like it.
The vibrance
Because you can
of
do
that
it.
community
Giving
that I
people
was
the
talking about
ability
earlier
to do something is important.
staggering, to the point that we've seen
Whether
a
it's easy or not,
ceasefire
doesn't matter.
in the console war between Xbox and PlayStation, where fans are actually petitioning to put the game on Xbox, generating memes and videos that are specifically trying to call Xbox players into the fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, this is just something that you love to see. This cross-platform collaboration where gamers are coming together to fight for a common cause. And this is largely one of the reasons why I always talk about having less exclusivity in video games, because it makes for moments like
exclusivity is an antiquated system that should not exist in modern gaming. The only thing that exclusivity is, the only reason why exclusivity is still around is due to antiquated and very archaic ways of releasing games. And the only companies that really push for that are the AAA ones, because they don't like having to have a competitivity clause against other labels. When you have a game that only comes out for Sony, it's about self-interest, and it's not really looking at the big picture. By limiting things with exclusivity, sure, you save face and you make your brand look better, but you miss the opportunity of getting more asses in seats.
Let's keep those gears turning. And
Thank you, Magic, for the resub.
Like this, or moments that are even better than this, and it perfectly suits a game like Helldivers 2, because it's chaotic and hilarious, but it requires a ton of coordination between players. You guys have to be talking about what kind of weapons you're going to bring, what kind of stratagems you're going to bring.
Just bring a 500 kg bomb. Nah, I don't.
Come up
just
with some
just bring the 500 kg. Bring the orbital laser. You're good.
Allotted when you guys drop onto a planet, you have to communicate.
But
and
to extent, that's kind of what makes this kind of game so fun.
Like
you
this,
can, but you don't have to.
Relatively rare
everything works to a degree.
Collaboration.
Everything has its function.
Well, you
and sure,
friends.
complementary
you communicate with other
help
people
and make you feel like you're being rewarded for your efforts, but it's not needed.
More in common than you don't.
Like, you can bring the most unoptimal setup and you can still get the game done.
Some of these console
just requires you to adjust your playstyle.
This kind of moment should be, except for the fact that, well, Xbox CEO Phil Spencer saw this as an opportunity to just cast another log onto the console war fire. In an interview with GameFile newsletter, Phil Spencer of Xbox said,
"Man, I cannot stand that we as gamers, you know, the average gamer being around the age of 20, I cannot stand that the gamers are being chastised by old age pensioners who've never touched a game in their life. The people who are making the decisions to segregate the communities, they never play the games. They don't know their own communities. All they see is dollar signs. So when you get these exclusivity things, when you get these things that seem very anti-consumer, they're only doing it because they see the dollar signs that they can earn by doing it. It's not looking at the big picture. It's not looking at the impact it has and the lack of faith. Because, like, sure, what they choose to do, like Phil Spencer was doing here, in the short run, it will drive sales. But in the long run, it removes any sense of trust that people have. People become apathetic with what you do. People lose faith in your ability to be honest and endearing. And inevitably, people will stop buying your shit for it. So, whenever you see, like, a Bobby Kotick or a Phil Spencer doing shit like this, you know there's no organic intent. And when you have... Look at it in, like, sort of a political system, right? Any political system that works is usually because the person who's in charge of that system is somebody who's from the people they're trying to make something for. If you have somebody from the demographic or the audience you're trying to make something for, or produce something for, or organize something for, it's much more likely to be success because they know what that audience wants. If you have someone who's completely disassociated and is only there because they had a skill set of business ethics, it creates this barrier of misunderstanding where they don't know what they're doing. They're just there to make money. And the way they know how to make money works for something, but when you've got a community front, when you've got when you have to have like an engagement, like in most parts of the world, you don't need to be caring about the person or the audience that's there, because that's not necessarily what will drive sales. You have that barrier between you. But the games industry is one that is completely community driven. And if you are constantly undermining the community, if you're treating them just like numbers, people aren't stupid. People will see that eventually, and they'll end up creating distance and apathy between them. It's a vicious cycle, and one that you can always tell when a studio or a company knows this, because they'll put someone who's from that community in charge to make the decisions. And generally, those are the companies that do really well. Look at No Man's Sky. Look at any of the really big games that have been successful recently. The ones that have been successful are usually the ones that are being made by the people who have played those games before. I mean, World of Warcraft, in originality, World of Warcraft existed because people weren't happy with the game they were playing at the time, which I think was either EverQuest 2 or Neverwinter Nights. Either way, it was because that they did not agree or appreciate what was being done, so they made it themselves. They had an understanding of what they wanted. Case in point. Same with Helldivers. Same with a lot of the big games recently.
Said, I will say, when I'm looking at a game like Helldivers 2, and it's a great game, kudos to the team shipping it on PC and PlayStation, I'm not exactly sure who it helps in the industry by not being on Xbox. If you try to twist yourself to say, like, somehow that benefited somebody somewhere, but I get it.
You know who it benefited? The stockholders. Because they don't have to then sit there and say, shit, well, we sold less Helldivers than PlayStation did. If they're not in the race, they don't have to worry to begin with. By not taking part, they have no investment. Like, if they were part of it, they would sell stuff and make money. But it's the pride. They don't want to compete in a race that they know they're going to lose.
There's a legacy in console gaming that we're going to benefit by shipping games and not putting them on other places.
And that word, legacy, that's what I mean.
Something like this makes me feel like
it's like a grudge match that's been going on for decades.
Just a few weeks ago, Pal World released on Xbox.
Thank you. Again, I made that reference.
Phil Spencer didn't have that same energy towards third-party exclusivity then. It seems that exclusivity is only an issue when it doesn't.
This whole idea of legacy, the reason why console wars still exist is because it's the mindset of the generation that founded these games back when it was necessary. And now it's like that scene from Klaus, where you've got the two opposing sides that have been fighting for generations, and they just don't remember why. They're just doing it because it's how it's always been. That's what it's like these days. The only reason console wars exist now is because it's been that way for so long. People
not exactly sure
feel like that's what they have
in the
to
industry to acquire a company and then lay off 1,900 of their developers, Mr. Spencer. My God.
Ooh.
The lack of awareness when it comes to some of these guys, I swear. Especially with that last line of, you could twist it so that it's like it's helping somebody somewhere, right? Like we're supposed to just ignore that you guys just purchased Activision Blizzard King and that you also picked up ZeniMax and Bethesda not too long ago either. But I'm
like
sure that's
Disney
helping somebody
the gaming industry,
somewhere, right? It's never about our freedoms as consumers.
You want to know who it's helping? You want to know? So all these studios that they keep buying, this is what I call the Disney philosophy. You know, you've got all these studios they're buying up, and it's a trickle down effect. In reverse, these are the studios they're buying. These then make products. These then make their products, which then make money for the person on top. The dickhead, if you will. That's what it is. That's all it is. This person up here has no connection with down here. The only thing this person on top has in charge is the money. This is all this person cares about. But they are 2 levels of separation away from what it is they're actually making. They made the purchase so that these studios they've bought can make them money. So when you say it's helping someone, It is. It's helping the COs and the stockholders.
It's always about our money and how to direct that money.
It's literally the Disney effect. They don't care what they're making as long as it makes them money.
They can act like they're pulling some type of
So
charity
when something
act
goes
by
wrong,
sending
they'll
some
be like,
games
"Oh,
over
it
to
wasn't us that did
PlayStation,"
this.
but
Oh no, it's the
we all
studio that
know
fucked
that
up."
It's really just to bring up the bottom line a little bit further. Now, speaking of money, that's one of the reasons why I do believe that Helldivers 2 and by extension Palworld have done so well is it's their value proposition towards
it's really
consumers. And it's something
this goes
that
into
the
the argument about like
has
why
gotten
AAA games are so
relatively
expensive.
disillusioned with over the last few years. Jen over on Twitter from Windows Central wrote, Palworld $29.99, Helldivers 2 $39.99, Suicide Squad kills the Justice League.
Shit, by the way. Shit. If it was worth $10, maybe.
$69.99. Skull and
Wait,
Bones.
Skull and Bones is $70?
You can buy two.
Okay, I can see that there's a valid argument for why some of these are expensive because, you know, production values and production time and whatever. But if you are valuing something at $70 as a starting price, you need the quality of that game to be infinitely better than anything that's at this level of price. Yeah, sure, these are made by indie developers. These don't have as much of a production value. These don't need to sell as much because they didn't invest as much into the production. But what's made is a lot smaller. Like, these games are tiny by comparison. These games should have been huge. These games should have been infinitely better experiences than these. It's a proportionate scaling. And there is a disparity between, you know, a AAA studio and an indie studio. But the indie studios don't have as much of an expectation to make something that's higher value. Indie studios, usually you expect what they make to be a little bit lower quality, maybe not so big scope, so they don't need to charge as much because there wasn't as much put into it. They didn't have as much staff, they didn't have as much production time, there wasn't as many cogs in the wheel to lubricate with the money. But when you're spending $69 to validate the production value, you expect that all of that money that's been invested to have all of those extra staff, all that extra production value, should have resulted in a better game. But usually it doesn't because these people don't understand what they're making. Too many cogs, too many hands on the pot, too many chefs in the kitchen.
The former breaking records
which
like we've never seen before.
These could have been good.
And it's no surprise
that
games like these are breaking records.
The leadership, those people at the top who have no connection to the games, are making decisions on things they don't understand. That's simple.
Where we have $70 AAA games.
I make this analogy quite a lot, but the simplicity of it is, a indie studio is a set of a very few cogs. There is not much in that system that needs doing. Very simple system. And because of that, there's not much nonsense that goes from one end of that system to the other. But in a AAA, you know, you want those extra cogs, so you have the opportunity to potentially take advantage of better opportunities to improve the production of your game. The problem is, if this system is not being cranked by someone who actually knows what the fuck they're doing, or maintaining it with, and by the person I'm talking about, the higher-ups, the people in charge, the COs, if this system is not being managed by someone who can maintain it, like the CEO, just because they are the owners, they also need to be leaders. You need people who can maintain this system. You need people who can look after these cogs, who knows how to lubricate them, to organize them, to get them into the right sustain, to make sure they're all ticking on the same system. If there are more cogs, there's more points of failure. But if it works, you will produce amazing games. And there are examples of that are amazing. Elden Ring, Armored Core, friggin' basically anything from Software. And yeah, not every AAA game is terrible, but you'll know the reason why a lot of these games will fail is because they haven't maintained this pipeline. The benefit of being an indie studio is you don't have as many cogs in the system to worry about. Thus, you can put something out without worrying about the higher-ups not knowing how to manage that system.
Now quadruple A games that are offering a lower quality experience with maximized monetization. I mean, Diablo 4 is selling horse
that can
armor
also go
for
into
the
the
same
idea of
price
why
that
you
can
monetize
buy
it
both
and why
Helldivers 2
microtransactions are then
and
put in.
Palworld.
Even though microtransactions are put in not because they're needed, but because people are greedy and say that you have to put them in because it's just a way of exploiting people's inability to not watch how they spend their money.
Players are actually rewarded for playing the game rather than just having them being demanded of more money. However, that kind of galaxy-brained thinking just doesn't suit the AAA money machine model of give less and ask for more.
Yes. Give
Widely
money now.
speaking, I think
Give
that
money
players
now.
are fine with
We don't
paying
care if we
higher prices
upset
for
you.
those games
We don't care
as
if
long as
we
those games
rustle your
are worth
jimmies.
the money
Give money
that we are
now, and
spending.
maybe you get game.
If this conversation was flipped, that you could buy Palworld and Helldivers 2 for the same price of Baldur's Gate 3, the dynamic of that conversation switches from this is a ripoff to customers having to
But
wait.
that's the thing. Baldur's Gate was worth the money because it was huge. That's what I mean. When a system works, Baldur's Gate is the example. Baldur's Gate was made with a system that was lubricated, well-maintained, well-functioned, well-organized, and well-orientated. That's how you do a AAA game.
Weigh the benefits of either choice. It's important that these games earn our money.
Yes.
And that's the same belief of Helldivers CEO.
I have my
after
mindset
the
that
game
$1
was
should
being
equate to an
accused
hour of
being
gameplay,
pay to win.
generally.
I'm partial, but we really
Or
applied
that
ourselves to not
if it's
make
worth
it pay
less
to
time
win,
for money,
even though
that
items
time
are
should be
functionally
infinitely more
different. The only item
entertaining.
that's pay to win is the revolver, which will win you any cool gun competition. Only minor problem is that it's not that good. Another person responded,
What kind of argument is
I'm
that?
so glad that you guys are continuing the trend of very fair and not predatory microtransactions in PlayStation
People are arguing this
multiplayer
like it's a
games.
competitive
Quite
game.
happy about that. So many live services end up dying
This
because
is
they
literally
chase
like
greed
people
instead of
arguing
fun and big player
about
base.
balance
Love this so
in a
much.
purely
To which Arrowhead CEO
power
responded,
fantasy game
"You
with
have to
no
earn the right to
PvP make me
monetize."
laugh.
I truly believe that. If people want to support this title, they have an option, but we're never forcing anyone to do so.
But
Now,
if
I want
you
to clarify
want to
how
instantly
monetization
know
works
who
in
not to
Helldivers
listen
2,
to,
as it
it's
seems
people
like
that argue
there are
about
still people
balance
that are
in a
relatively
power
confused.
fantasy game.
I get it. When I first saw the Warbond system, I said, ew, and then I realized how it worked, and I said, oh. When running missions, you will earn requisition slips, medals, samples, and super credits.
You like this is how you do a microtransaction. Like this is actually what I was meaning when I say people have been conditioned to have a certain mindset with microtransactions. People have been taken advantage of so much that their butthole is so raw that the second they see another battle pass coming in to fuck them, they're like, no, my butthole's still tender from the last fucking it had. Please, not another. So they saw this and were like, oh no, not another one. But really, this is how you do it right. You earn these, you can go into the game and farm these coins. This premium currency, which yes, you can buy, you can just farm it. And these credits are only for the cosmetics. It's not really even relevant. This is just literally how you unlock your gear, which you do passively by playing the game. And yeah, sure, it means if you might not have enough credits at the exact point the armor you want is in the store, but that just means you wait. You either have this time sunk paradox, fallacy, or you keep farming, get the coins, and just wait for it to come back in the store next time. And that is probably the only predatory thing in Helldivers, but that's how they encourage you to spend a bit more money. Like I don't agree or think that, games should have premium currency, especially when you have paid for a base price. But if it's done like this, at least it's not completely predatory in your ability to spend money. And in some respects, a little bit similar to Warframe. If you are able to farm the premium currency just by playing, that's how they get you playing. And in a game like this, it makes sense. Because the game is so simple, they need to incentivize you to monopolize your time. Knowing that you can go into a mission and earn something with real-world value, quote-unquote real-world value, gives you a reason to keep farming even if you've unlocked the entire game. Because even if you've unlocked everything, you can keep farming these credits so that if something does come into the store, you'll have money to buy it. I don't think this is as much of an argument as people like to lead on to believe.
Every single mission,
I think people have just been done dirty by the AAA industry and been conditioned to think this is bad.
Samples and super credits are only found in missions. However, super credits can be purchased with real money.
But everything that's bought with super credits is not integral to your experience. And you can just get it by playing.
System that functions similar to a battle pass in Fortnite, where you have the choice of what you want to unlock, when you want to unlock it, but you have to buy enough things to be able to progress to the next page.
Now,
samples and
if you could buy medals, that's where it'd be crossing the line. If you could buy medals and progress this, because this right here, this is your natural progression in the game. This is what you do open up just by playing. If this was unlockable, if you could buy medals, yes, fuck Helldivers, wouldn't go near it with a barge pole. That is predatory. That is Fortnite levels of predatory.
Are used to unlock higher end stratagems and upgrades for your ship and for
There's
use
a balance to be made.
Super credits
Helldivers does it really well.
Used for buying cosmetics or unlocking the premium war bond, which is the next tier of the battle pass. War bonds or battle passes do not expire. You will be able to progress them at your leisure and unlock items as you will. You cannot buy medals, so there is no way for you to just buy your way into higher end.
Guys, I did not pre-watch this, I swear.
Weapons.
It's just, I'm very intuitive to the kind of
That's the
conversational tangents, and this is the stuff I would want to talk about in this situation.
And you can use them to unlock the premium war bond, which is the battle pass that you progress for more equipment, more weapons, more upgrades, and things like that. But by the time that you have completed the basic war bond, the one that we all start with at the very beginning of the game, the one that's free, by the time that you even get halfway through or even close to the end, you've likely already earned enough of the premium currency the game has by running missions and getting some of it from the first war.
This is a natural progression cadence that encourages organic gameplay. You can, yes, you absolutely can try to get that bonus battle pass early, if you want to. And that is a small incentivization, but you are very quickly taught in this game that you don't need to. You are very quickly shown that you are able to get those tokens just by playing. It's a very interesting paradigm of developer respect and transparency enough to help you understand, whilst being encouraging enough to let you have it teased a little bit.
Bond directly to just go ahead and upgrade to the premium war bond. There's literally nothing stopping you from doing it. And then you're probably sitting there asking yourself, well, then that means that the cosmetics
we're on the same page,
right? Because that's how many of these games usually operate. No, actually, most of the super credits that are used for cosmetics are anywhere from like 250 to 500. The premium war bond is 1,000. So you can earn many of the credits that you need for a couple cosmetics within one session of playing with friends. If you're playing, well, I guess a little bit longer period of time, like 3 to 6 hours or something like that, depending on how long people play. Or
I'm
if
not
you're
even
just
sure.
On...
I might have to look this up. I'm not even sure how much of the credits you get from unlocking a vault. Because in the missions, you get these vaults that you open with 2 people, and you've also got the crashed supply pods. Those have super credits in them. I don't think it's much, but you can farm it. And it is decent enough that within probably like like you said, a few hours of playing, you will have enough super credits to afford an item.
On trying to farm that specific
or get
currency,
the premium pass.
You'll be able to get it relatively quickly. There's guides online, people showing how you can just farm super credits if that's something that you're trying to chase. But you can casually play, and you'll never run into a moment where you're like, I need to go and buy this currency.
That's not bad.
Simple
so literally, in 10 pickups of super credits, you have almost enough for an item.
Battle passes. I
or
largely do not engage with games that have
which again is an encouragement for playing the game.
However, with that said, this is largely the most.
It's why this game has been around for a while, because all they're going to have to do is release another battle pass in a few months' time, and people can jump back on.
I've seen in a video game, and it needs to be celebrated, because this isn't something that's just designed to extract more money from us. It's actually something that's designed to be able to, well, have them continue to monetize their game.
Encourage you to play the game with organic, respectful currencies that aren't gratuitous? What? I think this is just really endemic, or it's very representative of how much the AAA industry has conditioned us into thinking that grind is bad. That we don't like having to grind for no good reason. Like, there are so many reasons to play Helldivers. The game is simple as fuck. There is a very small gameplay loop. But the amount of reasons to play within that gameplay loop are stifling. You are never short of choice of why you play a game. Get your resources for upgrades. Get your currency to unlock the cosmetics. Farm for things. Just kill things because it's fun. substance
but
over
also
over
be something fun for us to actually
well,
engage
substance is
with.
important, and there's a lot
They
of
made
substance.
monetization a fun part of the
Like,
game loop.
Something that Warframe,
I like
and I
that.
use this as an example because I have 8 years of experience in Warframe. The problem with Warframe and a lot of games is the grind becomes pointless. You're grinding for a very disrespectful amount of reward. Like, there's always a balance. There's always a balance. Your grind should always be proportionate to your experience or reward. So experience and reward. If your grind is high, but your experience or reward is low, then your fun isn't going to be, you're not going to feel like you're being rewarded for the investment. And games that respect the audience enough are ones that are willing to, encourage those dopamine hits with enough reward to encourage you to keep playing, but not so much that it just gives you everything. You need to have that satisfaction of knowing you've earned something. Like, if you play the game enough to have found enough credits to have unlocked a cosmetic, you feel awesome having earned that. Or even just with like earning the resources of the regular upgrades, when you're unlocking your ship stratagems or whatever. When you are able to call in a 500 kg bomb and you take that back to one of the early level missions that has lower level players in it, and you drop that 500 kg bomb and watch the reaction of your teammates going, wow, you have that gratification of knowing that you have earned that. And that's why that's why the cadence and like the cyclicalness of gameplay and progression in Helldivers works so well.
Helldivers 2 deserves every ounce of praise and success it receives, and then some. For me, it is refreshing to see yet another game that is prioritizing the player experience over greedy monetization tactics that have been,
and we're getting more and more of them.
Becoming,
like I said in my video,
too common in the AAA industry.
Studios are waking up to that fact that this is what people want,
and the price
rather
of
than
games
manipulating the audience into them thinking they know what they want.
Helldivers 2 stands out as a beacon of
integrity. You guys don't
integrity,
have phones, right?
reminding us of the joy that
need to
games
insert
should be
the
bringing us.
you think you do,
Despite
but you
encountering
don't.
its server,
Which is also another really good example of a studio eating humble pie. You remember when Blizzard said, oh, you guys wouldn't want Classic. You think you do, but you don't. And then literally a couple years later, they released Classic, and now Classic is more popular than retail. Ain't that a funky thing?
Issues, which
it's
is pretty
almost
understanding.
like
The game didn't really expect
it's almost like you
to
don't understand
see
what your
this much
audience
success,
wants. It's almost like you have no connection.
Like Power World.
And when you don't have a
Helldivers
connection with
2
your audience, you have no way of gauging what it is you should be making or putting your time and effort into.
Especially when you're enjoying it with friends. The game's cooperative gameplay, incredible sound design, enemy variety, and variance in missions makes for some of the most memorable moments.
And this is only the baseline of Helldivers. There is so much more coming. We've got mechs, new mission types, new weather types, new affixes,
that is prevalent
new
in
weapons,
the AAA industry.
And here's the really big thing that they're going to be doing, which I really appreciate. In a power fantasy, you should not be nerfing things. Not really. Not unless it's like obscurely broken. Like everyone's using the railgun, right? But rather than nerfing the railgun and making people who've been using it feel bad, they're just going to bring the other weapons up to a standard that can at least be comparable. And give more variants of things that are equally as powerful. StarCraft 2 did this back in the day. Oh, sorry, StarCraft 1 did this back in the day, where in the original StarCraft 1, nobody liked the PvP because it was boring, broken, slow, and really unbalanced. And most of what they did to make it fun, and what made StarCraft so popular, was they barely nerfed anything. They buffed things instead. They made the people who had been enjoying using their stupidly powerful abilities still love those abilities, but they gave them more options by buffing other things that were underpowered. It's a positive on a positive, and it makes you feel powerful. If you nerf something that somebody's really been enjoying, all you're going to do is make them upset and create apathy.
Former Halo developers once pitched a game similar to this game's premise, underscores the industry's tendencies
dude, could you imagine a Halo game like this?
Financial gain over creativity and innovation by just continuing to make the same thing.
Money is important, but it should not be the only defining factor.
It's disheartening to see so many studios neglecting to publish games that they themselves would want to play or that would resonate with players. Instead, the industry...
So once again, some studios actually want to make these kind of games. But again, it's that douchebag who sits on top of the tower who sits at the top of that feedback loop, the person at the top of that triangle that says no, because you know what? It might not make as much money as this gacha game that you could make. We need only look at Diablo Immortal for the reason of that existing.
Appears to be consumed by money and individual egos, a far cry from the roots of its passion and creativity. The words of Larian Studios CEO proudly declaring their independence from shareholders and their commitment to
oh my god, you guys are gonna think I pre-watched this
should be a wake-up call for the industry at large. It's high time for a fundamental shift in priorities among some of the biggest players.
It's just
in
the way it works. I know the industry enough to know that this is what it is.
To core values.
Because if you know what it is, you also know what it isn't, and when you know what it isn't, you know what it is.
Rather than solely focusing on profit margins. Helldivers 2 is not just a game. It's a rallying cry for change. A reminder that the soul of gaming lies in the joy that it brings to the players.
No, I didn't pre-watch this. Shut up.
The dollars that it generates.
So, if you've liked the video, go watch the original. I'll put both Actman's and Legendary drops in the description below. And I will see all of you guys in the next one. Ta-ra!